John 4:19. Dicit ei mulier, Domine, video quia propheta est tu. The woman says to him, Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Now we get the Samaritan woman's response. Jesus has just explained some things to her about her past and about her current life that it would be difficult to explain how he knew these things. It seems that he has supernatural knowledge. And it's also clear that he's making more than just prophetic claims for himself, for who he is. But throughout this dialogue, the Samaritan woman is kind of resisting this idea, so she's sort of trying to deflect it along lines that make more sense to her here. But for the purposes of the Latin, there's not a lot to comment on, except perhaps that we might talk about how quia is very frequently used in late antique Latin, and especially in the Vulgate, to introduce subordinate clauses where classical Latin might prefer more often to use the accusative infinitive instruction. Now, what would that look like? Well, see for a moment if you can pause and write out what you think this subordinate clause would look like in accusative infinitive construction in reported speech. Here's how it would go. I see that you are a prophet. I see you to be a prophet, in other words. That's another way of expressing the same thing. But in this period of Latin, quia and quod and quoniam do a lot of work to join these clauses together. And we can understand how this runs together pretty easily. The woman says to him, Sir. Now this is worth dilating on just one more time. Not Lord here. Sometimes Dominus is used to translate kurios, Greek Lord as in Lord and Master, or sometimes Lord with kind of a capital L, when people recognize who Jesus really is, that he's the Messiah, that he's the Son of God. But here, this is probably actually what we talked about before, just a respectful term for someone whose name you don't know when you're trying to be courteous. And perhaps there's a hint of maybe this person that you're speaking to is of a higher social station as well, although that's not necessarily part of the context. The woman says to him, Sir, Mr., we might say in more colloquial English, I can see, not I can see literally, but we might add that in translation freely. I can see that you are a prophet. And the to at the end of the sentence here, even though, yes, as usual, it's following the Greek word order, this is especially emphatic, or I should say the effect is especially emphatic. She's turning the conversation back toward her interlocutor in a pretty decisive way here. She probably doesn't really want to answer the implied question about, what's going on in her life that has come up in the previous verses.